Ambassador Thessia's delicate wings trembled as she stood before the emergency council. The moth-like Valerian tried to keep her voice steady, but fear leaked through every word. Around the circular chamber, representatives from 7 peaceful species sat in stunned silence. The holographic display above them showed a map that told a terrible story. Red markers covered half their territory. Each one marked a world that had fallen to the Krex Empire in just 4 months. Billions of beings enslaved or dead. Entire ecosystems stripped bare for resources. The Krex war machine rolled forward like a hungry beast, and nothing seemed able to stop it. The defense fleet at Kepler Station lasted 6 hours, General Vex reported, his rabbit-like ears drooping with exhaustion. They had 300 ships. The Krex destroyed them all and took the planet in 2 days. Thessia closed her 4 eyes and tried to think. The Valerian Federation had always been peaceful. Their ships were built for exploration and trade, not war. They had defensive weapons, but the Krex were different. The lizard-like warriors lived for battle. They turned entire planets into military bases and bred their children for combat. "What about the other galactic powers?" asked Minister Zara, her flower-like petals wilting with stress. "Surely someone will help us." "The hegemony says it's not their problem," Vex replied bitterly. "The trade union won't risk their profits. The Crystal Collective is too far away to care. We sent messages to 40 different civilizations. They all said the same thing. We should have built better weapons." Thessia felt her heart sink. In the old days, her people told stories about guardians who would come to help the innocent. But those were just fairy tales. The real galaxy was cold and cruel. The strong survived and the weak became slaves. "There is one option," said Elder Moss, the oldest being in the chamber. His tree-like form creaked as he leaned forward. "The beacon." The room fell silent. Every child in the Federation knew about the beacon. Ancient ruins on their homeworld contained a device older than their civilization. Scientists had studied it for centuries but never understood its true purpose. The symbols around it spoke of calling the guardians in times of great need. "That's just mythology," protested Dr. Fern. "A children's story." "Is it?" Elder Moss asked. "Our ancestors built that beacon for a reason. They carved warnings and instructions in a dozen dead languages. They knew something we don't." Thessia stared at the red markers spreading across their territory like a disease. In 3 weeks, maybe less, the Krex would reach Haven, their capital world. Home to 12 billion souls who had never known war. The thought of Krex soldiers marching through her city made her sick. "What exactly does the beacon do?" she asked. "According to the translations, it sends a signal across the galaxy," Elder Moss explained. "A call for help that reaches something called the Guardians of the Void. The texts are unclear about who or what they are." "It could be anything," Dr. Fern argued. "Pirates, another empire, or worse. We might be inviting destruction into our own home." "We're already facing destruction," Thessia said quietly. "The Krex will be here soon. They don't take prisoners except as slaves. They don't negotiate. They consume everything they touch." She thought about her daughter, only 50 years old and still learning to fly, about the gardens where she had played as a child, about the libraries full of poetry and music that the Krex would burn for fuel. Her people had spent thousands of years building a civilization based on beauty and learning. The Krex would destroy it all in days. "How long would it take to activate the beacon?" she asked. "If we started now, maybe 6 hours," Elder Moss replied. "The device needs time to charge. The signal would go out across the galaxy instantly, but who knows if anyone would answer." General Vex shook his head. "This is madness. We're talking about trusting our entire species to a piece of ancient junk. We should evacuate what we can and scatter across the galaxy." "And abandon 12 billion people?" Thessia's voice cracked with emotion. "Leave them to become Krex slaves? I won't do it." "Neither will I," said Minister Zara firmly. "If there's even a small chance that help exists, we have to try." The debate continued for another hour, but Thessia could see the decision forming in everyone's eyes. They were desperate. The Federation's greatest scientists and generals had no answers. Their allies had abandoned them. The beacon was their last hope, no matter how foolish it seemed. Finally, they voted. 5 species in favor, 2 against. Elder Moss would lead a team to the beacon site immediately. Thessia volunteered to send the message herself. As the Federation's chief diplomat, she knew how to speak for her people. She also knew it might be the last thing she ever did. If the beacon brought enemies instead of friends, at least she would face the consequences. The journey to the beacon site took 4 hours by transport. The ancient ruin sat on a mountain plateau, surrounded by carved stones that hummed with energy. The beacon itself looked like a crystal tree, 30 meters tall and covered in symbols that seemed to shift when nobody was looking directly at them. The technical team worked quickly to power up the device. Energy readings climbed steadily as the crystal began to glow. Thesia stood before the communications panel and tried to think of what to say. How do you ask for help from something you don't understand? "Ambassador," called the lead technician. "The beacon is ready. The signal will broadcast on all frequencies across the galaxy." Thesia took a deep breath and activated the transmitter. "This is Ambassador Thesia of the Valerian Federation, speaking for all peaceful beings in the Andromeda sector. We face extinction at the hands of the Krex Empire. Our people are dying. Our worlds are burning. If there are guardians among the stars who protect the innocent, we beg for your help. We have children who will never see another sunrise if you don't come. Please, help us." She released the transmitter and stepped back. The beacon pulsed once, twice, then sent a beam of light shooting into space faster than anything they had ever seen. The energy signature was impossible, breaking several laws of physics. For 10 minutes, nothing happened. Thesia began to think they had just wasted their time and announced their location to every predator in the galaxy. Then the beacon chimed. A voice came through the communicator, speaking perfect Valerian but with an accent nobody recognized. The tone was calm, professional, almost bored. "Distress signal received. This is Terra Defense Command. We have your location and threat assessment. Fleet response authorized. Estimated arrival time, 72 standard hours. Maintain position and prepare tactical briefing data. Terra Defense Fleet responding to assist." Message ends. The transmission cut off, leaving the entire team staring at each other in shock. Thesia felt her knees go weak. Someone had answered. Someone was coming to help, but who were the Terrans? She had never heard of Terra or their defense fleet. A quick search of galactic databases showed almost nothing. Terra, designation Sol 3, listed as uninhabitable. No contact records. No trade agreements. No diplomatic relations. It was as if they existed in the shadows between the stars, unknown to galactic civilization. And now they were coming to fight the most dangerous military force in known space. Thesia hoped they were sending more than just one ship. The emergency council met again 12 hours after the beacon transmission. This time fear mixed with desperate hope in the chamber. Ambassador Thesia had spent the night researching everything she could find about these mysterious Terrans. But the results were troubling. "There's almost nothing in the galactic database," she reported to the assembled leaders. "Terra is listed as Sol 3, a class between Deathworld and a remote system. The danger rating is maximum. The planet is described as unsurvivable by galactic standards." General Vex leaned forward, his ears twitching nervously. "What kind of world has a maximum danger rating?" "According to the survey data, the gravity is twice galactic standard. The atmosphere contains toxic levels of oxygen. The weather includes massive storms that could level cities. The surface temperature ranges from freezing to boiling. There are references to apex predators and persistent threat environment." Dr. Fern's petals curled inward with worry. "An intelligent life evolved there? That seems impossible." "The records are fragmentary," Thesia continued. "Most files are either classified or corrupted, but there are references to the inhabitants being persistent predators with concerning psychological profiles. Whatever that means." Minister Zara shifted uncomfortably. "Maybe we made a mistake. If these Terrans are dangerous, more dangerous than the Krex?" Elder Moss asked pointedly. "The Krex have killed billions of our people. Whatever these Terrans are, they answered our call for help." Thesia pulled up another file. "There's one more thing. The database shows Terra had contact with galactic civilization about 200 years ago. Brief mentions of first contact protocols and containment recommendations. Then nothing. It's like they just vanished from the records." "Containment?" General Vex's voice cracked. "They wanted to contain an entire species?" "The files are sealed," Thesia admitted. "I can't access the details. But whatever happened, it scared someone enough to classify everything about Earth and its people." The discussion was interrupted by an urgent message from the Fleet Command Center. The Krex had accelerated their advance. Intelligence showed their war fleets moving toward Haven ahead of schedule. They would arrive in 48 hours, not the 3 weeks everyone had hoped for. "They intercepted our transmission," General Vex said grimly. They know someone is coming to help us, so they're rushing to attack before reinforcements arrive. Thessia felt her hope crumbling. Even if the Terrans were real, even if they were coming to help, they wouldn't arrive in time. The Kreks would overrun Haven, and billions would die or become slaves. There's something else, added the intelligence officer who had brought the news. The Kreks are laughing at us. Their communication intercepts show they think it's funny that we called for help. Their war commander Gek sent a message mocking the pathetic herbivores and their imaginary friends. The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew the Kreks' reputation for cruelty. They didn't just conquer worlds. They enjoyed making their enemies suffer. The fact that they found the situation amusing made everything worse. Maybe we should evacuate the capital, suggested Dr. Fern. Save who we can. Evacuate 12 billion people in 2 days? Thessia shook her head. Impossible. Most of our transport ships are already carrying refugees from the outer worlds. Elder Moss spoke up from his corner. The beacon is still active. It's been sending position updates every 6 hours. Whatever Terra Defense Fleet is, they know exactly where we are and what's happening. But will they get here in time? Minister Zara asked. Nobody had an answer. Hours passed like years. The Kreks fleet grew larger on their sensors as more ships joined the advance force. War Commander Gek commanded over 200 vessels, enough firepower to crack a planet's crust. The entire Valyrian defense fleet numbered 60 ships, and most of those were converted cargo vessels with light weapons. Thessia found herself standing on the observation deck of the orbital station, staring out at the stars. Somewhere out there, unknown beings were racing through space to help them. But were they real guardians or just another threat? The lack of information about Terra bothered her more with each passing hour. Ambassador, called a technician. We're detecting gravitational anomalies at the edge of the system. Thessia rushed to the sensor station. The readings showed massive distortions in spacetime, the kind created by ships traveling faster than light. But the signatures were wrong. Whatever was coming moved faster than anything in the galactic databases. How many ships? She asked. Unknown, the technician replied, adjusting the sensors. The gravity distortions are too large to count individual vessels. Either they're using technology we don't understand, or there are a lot of them. General Vex joined them at the sensor station. The Kreks are also detecting the anomalies. Their fleet is slowing down, trying to identify the new arrivals. On the communication channels, Kreks commanders argued with each other. Some wanted to continue the attack, confident they could destroy both the Valyrians and whatever was coming. Others worried about unknown threats and suggested waiting to see what they faced. War Commander Gek settled the argument with typical Kreks arrogance. We will crush Haven before these mystery ships arrive. Then we will crush them too. All enemies of the Kreks Empire will learn fear. 20 hours before the Terran fleet's estimated arrival, long-range sensors finally got clear readings on the approaching ships. The results left everyone speechless. 847 vessels, the sensor officer reported, his voice shaking. Mass readings suggest they're all military ships. The largest ones are over 1 kilometer long. Thessia gripped the console for support. 800 ships? The beacon brought an entire armada? They're configured unlike anything in our databases, continued the officer. Heavy armor plating, massive weapon systems, and energy signatures that don't match any known technology. The computer keeps classifying them as mobile weapons platforms rather than ships. General Vex stared at the tactical display in amazement. Those aren't exploration vessels or cargo ships. Every single one is built for war. Who are these Terrans? Whispered Dr. Fern. The answer came 6 hours later when the lead Terran ship finally responded to Valyrian communication attempts. The voice was female, speaking perfect Valyrian but with a strange accent that made every word sound clipped and precise. Valyrian vessel Haven Station. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Human Colonial Defense Force. We received your distress call and are responding in force. Please transmit all available tactical data on hostile forces, including fleet composition, weapon systems, and strategic objectives. We will handle the situation from here. Thessia activated the communication system with trembling hands. Admiral Chen, this is Ambassador Thessia. We're grateful for your response, but you should know the Kreks Empire has over 200 warships approaching our capital. They're experienced fighters with superior weapons. There was a pause before Admiral Chen replied. Her tone was calm, almost casual. Acknowledged, Ambassador. 200 ships is a moderate threat. Our tactical assessment shows the Kreks favor direct assault tactics with standard energy weapons. We'll adjust our approach accordingly. Moderate threat? Thessia looked at General Vex, who seemed equally confused. The Krex fleet was the largest military force ever assembled in this sector. They had conquered 17 worlds in 4 months. How could anyone call them a moderate threat? Admiral, Thessia said carefully, perhaps you don't understand the situation. The Krex are the most dangerous military force in known space. They've never been defeated in battle. Another pause. When Admiral Chen spoke again, there was something like amusement in her voice. Ambassador Thessia, let me explain something about humans. We come from a world that tries to kill us every day. We evolved fighting creatures that make your Krex look like children playing with toys. We've been preparing for galactic warfare since before your people discovered fire. The transmission cut off, leaving the Valerian leadership staring at each other in stunned silence. These humans spoke about war like other species discussed the weather. They seemed completely unconcerned about facing the most feared military in the galaxy. In 18 hours, they would find out if the humans' confidence was justified or if they had just invited 800 ships full of madmen to witness their destruction. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at exactly the time Admiral Chen had promised. Every sensor array in the system screamed warnings as 847 vessels materialized at the edge of Valerian space. The gravitational distortions from their arrival sent shockwaves across 3 star systems. Ambassador Thessia stood frozen on the observation deck of Haven Station, watching something that defied everything she knew about space warfare. The human ships weren't arranged in the neat formations favored by galactic militaries. Instead, they moved like a living organism, flowing and shifting in patterns that seemed random but felt terrifyingly purposeful. Visual contact established, reported the sensor technician, his voice barely a whisper, displaying on main screen. The holographic display lit up with images that would haunt Thessia's dreams forever. The human ships were nothing like the sleek, elegant vessels built by other species. They were brutal slabs of metal and ceramic, covered in angular armor plating that absorbed sensor beams. Weapon ports dotted their hulls like poxmarks, and strange appendages extended from their surfaces like the claws of sleeping monsters. Those aren't ships, breathed General Vex. They're flying fortresses. The largest vessel dominated the center of the formation, a massive dreadnought over 2 kilometers long. Its hull was dark gray, almost black, and covered in scars that suggested countless battles. Smaller ships swarmed around it like metallic insects, ranging from house-sized fighters to cruisers longer than Valerian cities. Computer analysis complete, the technician continued. Total fleet tonnage exceeds every galactic navy combined. Weapon signatures are off the charts. Some of the energy readings don't match any known technology. Thessia activated the communication system. Admiral Chen, this is Ambassador Thessia. Your fleet is impressive. We had no idea humans possessed such military capabilities. Admiral Chen's response was immediate. This is actually a light deployment, Ambassador. The Terra Defense Force maintains 7 full fleet groups. This is Fleet Group Delta, specialized for rapid response and hostile engagement. Light deployment? Thessia looked at the massive armada filling her sensor screens and tried to imagine what a full human military force would look like. The thought made her dizzy. Across the system, the Krex fleet had stopped its advance completely. War Commander Gek's forces sat motionless in space, clearly as shocked as everyone else by the human arrival. Communication intercepts showed chaos among the Krex commanders as they tried to understand what they faced. Unknown vessels. Came a transmission from the Krex flagship. This is War Commander Gek of the Krex Empire. You are entering sovereign Krex territory. Withdraw immediately or face destruction. Admiral Chen's reply was broadcast on all frequencies, ensuring everyone in the system could hear it. War Commander Gek. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Human Colonial Defense Force. You are ordered to cease all hostile actions against Valerian Federation territory and withdraw your forces immediately. This is your only warning. The communication channel filled with Krex laughter. War Commander Gek's voice dripped with contempt. Humans? We have never heard of your pathetic species. Return to whatever hole you crawled from, mammals. The Krex Empire fears nothing. Admiral? Thessia said quickly. Perhaps we should explain the situation. The Krex don't negotiate. They only understand force. We know exactly what the Krex understand, Admiral Chen replied calmly. We've been watching galactic affairs for decades, Ambassador. We know about their conquests, their slave markets, and their treatment of civilian populations. That's why we're here. On the tactical display, the human fleet began to move. The formation flowed forward like liquid metal, ship movements synchronized with mechanical precision. But there was something else, something that made Thessia's skin crawl. The humans moved with the confidence of apex predators stalking prey. War Commander Gek apparently noticed the same thing. His voice was less certain when he transmitted again. Human ships, halt your advance. The Krex Empire claims this system by right of conquest. We will defend our territory. Admiral Chen's response was ice cold. War Commander, you have 30 seconds to begin withdrawing your forces. If you fire a single weapon or advance 1 meter toward Valerian territory, we will consider it an act of war against the Human Defense Pact. Human Defense Pact? Thessia asked. I've never heard of such an organization. It's new, Admiral Chen explained. Established 24 hours ago when we received your distress call. Congratulations, Ambassador. The Valerian Federation is our first member. Thessia felt her world spinning. In one day, her people had gone from facing extinction to joining a military alliance with the most powerful fleet anyone had ever seen. She didn't know whether to feel grateful or terrified. The 30-second deadline passed. War Commander Gek's fleet began moving forward again, clearly convinced that numbers would give them victory. 200 Krex warships against 800 human vessels might seem like poor odds. But the Krex had never lost a battle. Their confidence was absolute. All human vessels, Admiral Chen broadcast, you are cleared to engage. Rules of engagement are unrestricted. Priority is protection of Valerian civilians and infrastructure. Show them what humans do to slavers. The human fleet responded instantly. Ships that had been drifting in loose formation suddenly accelerated to impossible speeds. The smaller vessels moved like fighters, darting between Krex ships faster than sensors could track. The larger ships opened fire with weapons that lit up space like new stars. Thessia watched in amazement as human tactics unfolded. They didn't attack in waves or follow predictable patterns. Instead, they flowed around the Krex formation like water, hitting weak points and disappearing before return fire could find them. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. How are they moving so fast? General Vex asked in wonder. Gravity manipulation, reported the sensor officer. They're using controlled gravitational fields to accelerate and maneuver. The technology is centuries ahead of anything in our databases. The first Krex ship exploded in a ball of plasma as human kinetic weapons punched through its shields like paper. The massive projectiles tore through armor plating designed to stop energy beams, gutting the vessel from bow to stern. More explosions followed as the human fleet systematically dismantled Krex formations. War Commander Gek's voice crackled over the communication channels, no longer arrogant, but filled with growing panic. What are these weapons? Our shields are useless. Those aren't energy weapons, the Valerian sensor officer said in amazement. They're firing solid projectiles at significant fractions of light speed. The kinetic energy is enormous. Admiral Chen's tactical display showed the battle from the human perspective. Red markers indicated Krex ships with green markers showing human vessels. The red markers disappeared one by one as the human fleet carved through Gek's forces with surgical precision. Admiral Chen, Thessia transmitted, your tactics are incredible. How did you know the Krex weaknesses? We've been studying galactic warfare for 2 centuries, Admiral Chen replied. Your species all make the same mistake. You fight wars like sporting events with rules and limitations. Humans fight to win, whatever the cost. A massive Krex battlecruiser tried to ram one of the human ships, believing that close combat would negate the human's superior weapons. Instead, the human vessel opened like a flower, revealing internal structures that grabbed the Krex ship with mechanical tendrils. Thessia watched in horror as the human ship literally tore its opponent apart. By the void, whispered Dr. Fern. What kind of beings are these humans? The answer came from Captain Maria Santos, broadcasting from one of the human boarding vessels. Her voice was calm and professional, but there was something underneath it that made Thessia's blood run cold. Krex vessel, destroyer of worlds, this is Captain Santos of the HDFS Retribution. Your ship is now under human control. Your crew is being secured. Resistance is futile and will result in immediate termination. They're boarding enemy ships, General Vex said in disbelief, in the middle of a space battle. The tactical display showed dozens of small human craft attaching themselves to Krex vessels like parasites. Whatever happened inside those ships, the Krex stopped fighting very quickly. Some surrendered. Others simply went silent. War Commander Gek's flagship was the last to fall. The massive Krex dreadnought fired everything it had at the approaching human vessels, but the humans flowed around the attacks like smoke. Thessia watched as 3 human ships surrounded Gek's vessel and began cutting it apart with beam weapons that sliced through armor like butter. The final transmission from War Commander Gek was barely coherent.
What are you?
What kind of demons spawn on Deathworlds? I surrender. I surrender to the demons from the impossible world. Admiral Chen's response was matter-of-fact. Surrender accepted. All Krex personnel will be processed according to human military justice. War criminals will face appropriate punishment. The battle was over. In 6 hours, the human fleet had destroyed or captured the most powerful military force in the sector. Not a single human ship had been lost. The precision and efficiency of their victory left everyone speechless. Ambassador Thessia, Admiral Chen transmitted. The immediate threat has been neutralized. We'll need to discuss long-term security arrangements for your Ambassador Thessia's transport shuttle approached the human flagship with a mixture of awe and terror. The massive dreadnought filled her viewport, its scarred hull telling stories of countless battles. Up close, she could see details that sensors had missed. Weapon systems that moved like living things, armor plating that seemed to shift and flow, and strange markings that hurt her eyes to look at directly. Docking Bay 7 is clear for approach, came the voice of the human flight controller. Welcome aboard the HDFS Nemesis, Ambassador. The docking bay was enormous, large enough to hold a Valerian cruiser, but what struck Thessia most was the activity. Human crew members moved with purpose and efficiency, maintaining equipment and preparing for operations she couldn't identify. They were taller than most galactic species, built like predators with forward-facing eyes and confident movements. Captain Maria Santos met her at the airlock. The human woman was shorter than Thessia had expected, but there was something in her eyes that spoke of vast experience and absolute confidence. Her dark skin was marked with scars, and her uniform bore insignia that indicated combat service on dozens of worlds. Ambassador Thessia, Captain Santos said with a smile that showed too many teeth, welcome to humanity's contribution to galactic peace. Admiral Chen is waiting for you on the bridge. As they walked through the ship's corridors, Thessia observed the humans around her. They moved differently from other species, with a fluid grace that reminded her of hunting cats. Their technology was equally alien. The walls seemed to pulse with energy, and the displays showed information in patterns that hurt her brain to follow. Your ship is very different from what we're used to, Thessia commented. Human vessels are grown, not built, Captain Santos explained. We use biomechanical integration to create ships that think and adapt. The Nemesis has been Admiral Chen's flagship for 30 years. They know each other's thoughts. The bridge was a cathedral of controlled chaos. Dozens of humans worked at stations that seemed to respond to thought as much as touch. Admiral Chen stood at the center, a tall woman with silver hair and eyes like winter storms. She turned as Thessia entered, and the Valerian ambassador felt like prey being studied by a patient hunter. Ambassador, Admiral Chen said warmly, thank you for joining us. I hope the battle didn't distress your people too much. Distress? Thessia struggled to find words. Admiral, your fleet just destroyed the most feared military force in known space in 6 hours. How is that possible? Admiral Chen gestured to a viewing port that showed the aftermath of the battle. Krex ships floated dead in space, their hulls cracked open like eggs. Human vessels moved among them, cataloging wreckage and rescuing survivors. The Krex fight the way most galactic species fight, Admiral Chen explained. They follow rules, maintain formations, and try to minimize losses. Humans learned warfare on a planet that doesn't care about rules or fairness. We fight to end conflicts as quickly and completely as possible. A communication alert interrupted their conversation. The tactical officer looked up from his station with a grim expression. Admiral, we're receiving reports from across Krex territory. Their entire empire is in chaos. Local commanders are declaring independence, slave worlds are rebelling, and their government on the homeworld has gone silent. Expected, Admiral Chen nodded. The Krex Empire was held together by fear of their military. Remove that fear and the whole structure collapses. Thessia felt overwhelmed. You destroyed their entire empire in one battle. No, Captain Santos corrected. We destroyed their ability to project power. The empire is destroying itself. Our job now is to make sure innocent people don't suffer in the collapse. Admiral Chen activated a holographic display showing the local sector. Red markers indicated Krek's territory, but many were already shifting to yellow or green as local populations threw off their oppressors. "This is what humans do, Ambassador," Admiral Chen said quietly. "We don't just win battles, we change the fundamental balance of power. Your people called for help against slavers and conquerors. We've eliminated that threat permanently, but the cost," Thessia whispered. "So many Kreks died." Captain Santos's expression hardened. "The Kreks killed billions of innocents. They enslaved entire species. They turned children into soldiers and pleasure slaves. Every Kreks we killed today was a willing participant in genocide." Admiral Chen's voice was gentler but equally firm. "Thessia, humans learned long ago that mercy toward evil enables greater suffering. We choose to bear the moral burden of violence so that peaceful species like yours don't have to." The conversation was interrupted by another alert. This time, the communications officer looked excited rather than concerned. "Admiral, we're receiving surrender requests from 47 Kreks installations across the sector. They're offering to release all slaves and submit to human authority." "Patch me through to all Kreks commanders," Admiral Chen ordered. Her voice filled the bridge and transmitted across the sector. "This is Admiral Chen of the Human Defense Force. All Kreks military personnel have 36 hours to release prisoners, disarm their weapons, and report to designated collection points. Anyone found harming civilians after this announcement will be hunted down and eliminated. This is not a negotiation." Thessia watched the tactical display as Kreks positions across dozens of worlds acknowledged the message. The speed of their collapse was breathtaking. In less than a day, humanity had not just defeated but completely dismantled an empire that had terrorized the galaxy for generations. "How long have you been planning this?" she asked. "Since we first learned about galactic civilization 2 centuries ago," Admiral Chen replied. "We watched the Kreks expand and enslave peaceful species. We studied their tactics, their technology, their psychology. We prepared for the day someone would ask for our help." Captain Santos pulled up files on her personal display. "Would you like to see what Krek's civilization really looks like, Ambassador? We have footage from the liberated worlds. The images were horrible beyond description. Slave factories where children labored until they died. Breeding facilities where conquered species were forced to produce more workers. Pleasure palaces where Krek's nobles tortured beings for entertainment." Thessia had to look away. "We can't show these images to your people," Captain Santos said gently. "They're too terrible for civilians to process. But this is why humans fight with such intensity. We've seen what happens when evil goes unchallenged." Admiral Chen touched a control and the horrific images disappeared. "The good news is that it's over. We estimate that over 2 billion slaves will be freed in the next week. Entire species will regain their freedom. What happens now?" Thessia asked. "Will humans take over Krek's territory?" "No," Admiral Chen said firmly. "Humans don't build empires. We build alliances. Every liberated world will choose its own government. We'll provide protection and support, but we won't rule." The communications officer looked up again. "Admiral, we're receiving requests for assistance from 17 other species. Word is spreading about what happened here." "Of course it is," Admiral Chen smiled. "Every oppressed species in the galaxy is learning that help exists. Every tyrant is learning that their actions have consequences." Thessia felt a chill of realization. "You're going to change everything, aren't you? The entire galactic order." "It was already changing," Captain Santos pointed out. "Species like the Kreks were growing stronger while peaceful civilizations grew weaker. We're just accelerating the process in favor of the good guys." Admiral Chen gestured to the viewing port again. Outside, human ships were already organizing relief convoys for liberated worlds. Medical vessels prepared to treat freed slaves. Engineering ships began repairing damaged infrastructure. "This is what humans are really good at, Ambassador. Not just warfare, but the aftermath. We rebuild, we heal. We make sure the peace we win actually lasts." A young human officer approached with a data pad. "Admiral, we have preliminary casualty reports from the battle. Human losses, 0 killed, 12 wounded. Krek's losses, 48,000 killed, 130,000 captured." The numbers stunned Thessia. The humans had achieved total victory with almost no losses. It wasn't just superior technology. It was superior understanding of warfare itself. "How do we repay you for this?" Thessia asked. "The Valyrian Federation owes humanity a debt we can never repay." "You already have," Admiral Chen said with genuine warmth. You trusted us enough to call for help. You gave us the chance to do what we were born for, protecting those who can't protect themselves. Captain Santos nodded agreement. Humans need a purpose, Ambassador. We're not good at being peaceful, but we're very good at making peace possible for others. The bridge's tactical display chimed with another update. More species were requesting human assistance. More tyrants were offering to surrender rather than face human fleets. The galaxy was changing by the hour. One thing you should know, Admiral Chen said seriously. This changes everything for your people, too. The Valerian Federation is now under human protection. That means anyone who threatens you threatens us. But it also means you're part of something bigger now. Thessia looked around the bridge 3 weeks after the battle that destroyed the Krex Empire. Ambassador Thessia stood in the newly constructed Human Valerian Diplomatic Center on Haven. Through the massive windows, she could see human and Valerian ships working together to establish trade routes and patrol schedules. The sight still amazed her. The aftermath of humanity's intervention had been swift and dramatic. Within days of the Krex fleet's destruction, 17 different species had requested human protection. Within 2 weeks, 43 worlds had been liberated from various oppressive regimes. The galaxy was reshaping itself around a new reality. Humanity had arrived, and they were everything the ancient texts had promised. Ambassador, called Dr. Sarah Kim, humanity's first xenopsychologist, the cultural exchange data is ready for your review. Thessia accepted the data pad with interest. Dr. Kim had been working to help both species understand each other better, a task that proved more challenging than anyone expected. Humans thought differently from every other known species, in ways that were both fascinating and unsettling. The preliminary results are encouraging, Dr. Kim explained. Valerians and humans share fundamental values about protecting innocence and promoting peaceful development. The main difference is in our approaches to conflict resolution. That was putting it mildly, Thessia thought. Humans approach conflict the way other species approach natural disasters, as something to be ended as quickly and completely as possible, regardless of the cost to themselves. It was admirable and terrifying at the same time. A soft chime announced an incoming priority transmission. Admiral Chen's image appeared on the holographic display, speaking from her flagship somewhere in former Krex space. Ambassador Thessia, Admiral Chen said with a tired smile, I have an update on the liberation operations. The last Krex slave facility has been secured. We estimate that over 3 billion beings have been freed across 47 worlds. The number was staggering. 3 billion lives saved by human intervention. Thessia had seen the footage from some of the liberation sites and wept for days afterward. The humans who carried out those rescues had witnessed horrors that would have broken most species, but they continued their work with grim determination. What about the former Krex territories? Thessia asked. Most worlds have established new governments with human assistance, Admiral Chen reported. We're providing security and infrastructure support while they rebuild. The transition is proceeding better than expected. Admiral Chen's expression grew more serious. However, we're receiving new requests for assistance daily. The hegemony has begun consolidating border worlds, which appears to be a euphemism for conquest. The Crystal Collective is demanding tribute from smaller species. It seems word of human capabilities has made some powers more aggressive, not less. Thessia felt her stomach sink. They're trying to grab territory before you can intervene. That's our assessment. Unfortunately for them, human fleet deployment is faster than they anticipated. The display shifted to show a galactic map marked with various symbols. Green areas indicated human protection, red showed active conflicts, and yellow marked species requesting assistance. As of this morning, Admiral Chen continued, the Human Defense Pact includes 47 member species across 234 worlds. We're essentially running a galactic peacekeeping operation. Dr. Kim leaned forward with interest. How are your people handling the psychological stress? This level of conflict exposure would overwhelm most species. Admiral Chen's smile was grim. Humans are adapted for this kind of work, Doctor. We evolved on a world where constant vigilance was the price of survival. Fighting to protect others gives us purpose. A new voice joined the conversation as Captain Santos appeared on the display. Ambassador, we've completed the analysis of that ancient beacon your people activated. The results are fascinating. What did you find? Thessia asked. The beacon is definitely not Valerian technology, Captain Santos explained. It's older than any galactic civilization we know about. The materials and construction techniques don't match anything in our databases. Dr. Kim pulled up technical schematics. The really interesting part is that it was specifically designed to contact Earth. The signal wasn't broadcast randomly across the galaxy. It was aimed directly at our solar system. Thessia felt a chill run through her wings. That's impossible. Your people only achieved spaceflight recently. Not our people, Admiral Chen corrected. Us. Current humanity has only been spacefaring for about 400 years. But the beacon is over 10,000 years old. The implications hit Thessia like a physical blow. You're saying humans were in this part of the galaxy before? We're saying someone wanted to make sure that if peaceful species ever needed help, they could contact humanity specifically, Captain Santos explained. The beacon was programmed with Earth's exact location and a message describing our capabilities. Admiral Chen activated another display showing archaeological data. We've found similar beacons on 12 other worlds, all built by unknown civilizations. They're all configured to contact Earth in times of crisis. But who would build such things? Dr. Kim wondered aloud. We have theories, Admiral Chen said carefully. Some evidence suggests that humans have been intervening in galactic affairs for much longer than our recorded history indicates. There are legends among dozens of species about the guardians from the void, who appear in times of great need. Thessia thought about the stories her grandmother used to tell, about ancient protectors who watched over the innocent, stories that every peaceful species seemed to share in one form or another. The point is, Captain Santos continued, your people didn't accidentally discover the beacon. Someone wanted you to find it. Someone wanted to make sure you could call for help when you needed it. A priority alert interrupted their discussion. The communications officer on Admiral Chen's bridge looked up with urgent news. Admiral, we're receiving a distress call from the Ethereal Conclave. They're under attack by something they describe as void hunters. Their entire star system is under siege. Admiral Chen's expression hardened. The Ethereals are pacifists who've never harmed anyone. Signal Fleet Groups Alpha and Beta to prepare for immediate deployment. Admiral, Thessia said quickly, that's over 1,600 ships. For one star system? The Ethereals don't panic easily, Admiral Chen explained. If they're calling for help, the threat is serious. We don't take chances when innocent lives are at stake. As the humans prepared for another intervention, Thessia reflected on how much had changed in just 3 weeks. The galaxy that had once ignored the Valerian Federation's pleas for help now watched humanity's every move with fascination and fear. Dr. Kim pulled up a summary report. The psychological impact on galactic civilization has been profound. Survey data shows that aggressive species are reconsidering their expansionist policies while peaceful species are reporting increased confidence and cooperation. Fear of humans is reshaping interstellar politics, Admiral Chen agreed. Tyrants are learning that oppression has consequences. Peaceful species are learning that they don't have to face threats alone. The holographic display showed updates from across the galaxy. Former slave worlds were establishing new governments. Trade routes closed by warfare were reopening. Species that had been enemies for centuries were negotiating peace agreements under human mediation. This is what we've been preparing for, Captain Santos said with satisfaction. Not just military victory, but lasting peace. Humans don't just fight wars. We end them. Admiral Chen's attention was drawn to another incoming message. Ambassador, I have to go. The ethereal situation requires immediate response. But before I leave, there's something you should know. What is it? We've been monitoring galactic communications. Over 200 species have requested information about joining the Human Defense Pact. Your beacon didn't just save the Valerian Federation. It started a galactic alliance. After the transmission ended, Thessia stood quietly looking out at the stars. Ships from dozens of worlds moved peacefully through Valerian space, protected by the gray hulks of human warships. Children who would have become slaves were learning to fly. Worlds that would have burned were rebuilding. Dr. Kim joined her at the window. Regrets about activating the beacon? None, Thessia said firmly. My people are alive and free. Billions of others are alive and free. Whatever the cost, it was worth it. The cost may be higher than you think, Dr. Kim warned gently. Humans are changing the fundamental structure of galactic civilization. Some species won't accept that peacefully. Thessia watched a human patrol ship pass by, its dark hull marked with the scars of countless battles. Inside, she knew, were beings who had chosen to spend their lives fighting so that others could live in peace. Then they'll learn what the Kreks learned, she said quietly. Humans don't just protect their friends, they eliminate threats to their friends. A new message appeared on the diplomatic center's main display. It was from the ethereal conclave transmitted just hours ago. The elegant beings spoke in harmonious voices, their words carrying gratitude that transcended language barriers.